So as I do this video, the Tories are winding their way up to Manchester to take their place, ready to, get into their hotel rooms to prepare for the opening of the Tory party conference, which should already be well underway by the time this video comes out. However, already before this conference has even opened, not only does Rishi Sunak have a rebellion on his hands of at least 30 MPs, according to reports, and potentially many more prepared to back that rebellion, which, to be honest, in itself is a huge potential threat. You've got huge dissatisfaction about all the different Tory factions going into this conference incredibly disappointed, incredibly demotivated, fighting against each other. They're already launching rival manifestos, and the fact that you've had a recent opinion poll saying that most of those voters in 2019 who lent their votes to the Tories to get Brexit done and deliver that change that Boris Johnson promised of levelling up the country, and now prepared not to back the Tories next election, and to quote, as it is being called, take back their votes from the Tories this time around. And this is the type of desertion we were always talking about, that Brexit played a massive part in that 2019 election, more than people really are prepared to admit. And of course, the idea of Boris Johnson telling a story and weaving it in with the whole promise of levelling up and not leaving behind these towns ultimately came to naught and failed. And of course, what's going to happen? They ain't going to vote for you again. And we now have had the surprise announcement that 20 towns are going to get this massive injection boost of cash. Here you go, guys. Have some cash. Please vote for us. Please. This conference, I think we are going to get a ton of news stories, a ton of stuff come out of this conference, and it is going to be insane. And I have said before, at the last Good Morning Walk we had about this, I would love to go to the Tory party conference, not the main conference, but I would love to go to the fringe events around this conference, just to sit and watch to see what all these fringe events are doing and saying, because it would be terrifying, scary, and hilarious, all wrapped up into one. It generally would be absolutely hilarious to go and see. But as always, we're going to go get into just some of this chaos that has unfolded before this conference has even, truly kicked off. But before we do go getting into that, please do remember to click on the like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page and a one-off link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can, buy me coffee. And of course, as always, thank you very much to all those people who do help and support the channel that way. And of course, there is the YouTube thank you button, and of course, the Pony Club down below as well. So let's go diving into this, because this just sums up so much of the chaos of, as the title says, Tory turmoil, as a third of voters desert the party and factions launch rival manifestos. Yeah. I've been saying constantly to you just how fractured the Conservative Party is, how disaster it is really in, and the fact that Rishi Sunak is not a strong enough leader to be able to bring it all together. Oh my word. The stuff we are probably going to hear this week is going to be amazing. And the thing is, if Rishi Sunak's speech completely bombs or flops, the danger is that the Conservatives come out of the conference and they go, Rishi Sunak should not continue to be the Prime Minister. And then, oh boy, all bets are off. All bets are off on what could happen next. But anyway, we'll go getting into this. So, the coalition of voters that delivered the Tories a big majority at the last election is crumbling, according to a new dynamic evidence that the party is losing support amongst those key battlegrounds across England. The findings reveal a special poll of 2019 Tory voters for The Observer comes as Rishi Sunak is facing a series of competing and contradictory demands from warring Tory factions ahead of the party's conference in Manchester. Did we expect anything less? Did we expect anything less? With the Prime Minister also trying to attempt to breathe new life into his government. During his first conference speech as leader, MPs in the red wall seats will present with him a plea to turbocharge the northern economy after the HS2 fiasco, while figures on the right are to present their own manifesto this week. Liz Truss is also set to demand lower taxes and a smaller state. So, not only have you got all the red wall MPs panicking, remember, we've covered some of the coat postings that some of those red wall MPs have been doing in Conservative homes, saying, we're winning in South Yorkshire. We're winning in South Yorkshire. Well, congratulations. You just barely managed to hold on to one local council seat winning. And yet they are panicking the most. They are the ones who are going to be panicking because they're not going to get what they want. Rishi Sunak is not going to turbocharge the economy, and we still don't know anything about what is going to happen to HS2 because Rishi Sunak refuses to give an answer on it. And now you've got the right presenting their own manifesto. That's not going to be confusing to people. And then, of course, in comes Liz Truss, saying, I demand lower taxes and a smaller state. What a conference. What a chaotic conference this is going to be. So it comes with exclusive polling from the Observer that reveals a third of those who voted Conservatives in 2019 intend to switch to other parties. It suggests that the Tories have lost the voters in these critical areas and their southern heartlands and red wall seats in the Midlands. In a special poll conducted by Opinion, this finds that over 34% of those Conservative voters currently intending to vote for other parties, and voters who backed the Conservatives in the 2019 in the Midlands and the South are now least likely to stick with the party at the next general election. Only 61% and 60% respectively will stay with the party. That's 1 in 5 voters who backed the Tories in 2019 in the South of England. They said that they had switched to Labour or the Lib Dems. This is going to cause panic. I have said this very, very often. MPs and parties pay attention to polls like this all the time. This, during a conference which is meant to try and cement Sunak as this new agent for change, as he's being attempted to be cast as, he is not going to be able to do that. I said in that video, Rishi Sunak can't even choose his own pair of trousers because there'll be different Tories busting into his bedroom saying, no, Rishi, you've got to wear these trousers. No, Rishi, what do you think wearing corduroys? You've got to wear these pinstriped ones instead. What do you think? Blue trousers? You've got to wear grey. He can't choose his own trousers, let alone even try to comprehend the Herculean chance or attempt at trying to push through some sort of policy to bring this supposed change that he is apparently meant to be the agent of. The very idea of this and the stories that are going to come out this week from this conference are going to be insane. And it would not surprise me if we see open clashes on the floor of these conferences and maybe even some during these fringe events that we get possibly see reported. This is why I've said I want to go just as a fly on the wall observer to see what happens at some of these fringe events, to see what they say, because oh boy, fun. Fun. Anyway, it continues. These findings come after a year in which Sunak has attempted to try and claim that at least calm the party infighting, which he has failed drastically at. However, The splits are set to re-emerge this weekend, as many factions will try and use what is likely to be the last Tory conference before this election to pull the party in their direction. A group of right-wing Tory MPs that includes the ex-leader Ian Duncan Smith and the former cabinet ministers Priti Patel, Jacob Rees-Mogg and John Redwood, not surprising, will also table a rival manifesto demanding that Rishi Sunak pull the UK out of the European Convention of Human Rights, cut taxes for families, small businesses, and entrepreneurs, and halve the number of visas for migrant workers and foreign students and their families in order to slash immigration. Oh boy, that's going to go down well. And of course, this is the new calling card. We said it would become a new calling card for the Tories to try and pull them out of the Convention of Human Rights. Honestly, if I have said this before, if Rishi Sunak puts this in the next Conservative manifesto, then it does not matter your feelings on Keir Starmer or whatever. You have to go out and vote tactically. Otherwise, this could be a thing that ends up happening. And oh my word, if you thought the Brexit vote was bad, imagine what a referendum on this would be like. It would be absolute awful. We cannot allow this to even happen. And I've said that in all seriousness. I do not care your feelings on Labour, Keir Starmer, the Lib Dems, whatever. Get out there, vote for the Lib Dems or the Labour Party, depending on what your tactical voting area it says, and get the Tories out, because you cannot even allow such a thing to be in even a manifesto. That is the danger that should represent. And they should be defeated en masse for trying to even put such a thing in a manifesto if this happens. But that's what they are trying to do. They're trying to say, oh, look, how fantastic our manifesto is going to be. Yeah, very, very dangerous. And it's not just them. Not just them. Because the Tory MP and the co-chair of the New Conservatives, Danny Kruger, said that radical action was needed to retake the wide coalition of supporters that allowed his party to win an 80-seat majority in 2019, saying that if we hope to rebuild our 2019 coalition, we need to be bold, and this polling has proved the policies that would show the electorate that we always stand for what their values have said, he said. Yeah, the New Conservatives. Oh my word. Oh, I love it. We're not conservatives, we're new conservatives. It's the old new Coke drama all over again. Of course, on Monday, more than 30 Conservatives MPs in the Northern Research Group, who fear that they will lose their seats because the Red Wall voters feel betrayed, will publish their own. So there's not one, there's two competing manifestos out there calling for their own radical manifesto for the North, calling for huge investment in public services in the region and the transfer of more political and tax-raising powers from Whitehall. Fun. Oh boy. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. This is going to be such a fun couple of days. It really is. It really is. Sunak is also facing pressure from his predecessors. Truss is due to head the Great British Growth Rally on Monday, calling for Conservatives to be the party of business again by reducing corporation tax and shrinking the state. Ahead of this year's autumn statement, we must make the Conservative Party the party for business once again by getting the corporation tax down to 19%, she is expected to say. This is how we will make Britain grow again. It's free businesses that will get us there, not the Treasury, not the government, and not the state. And of course, Truss will attempt to also keep the corporation tax at 19%, but then the plans were ripped up in the wake of the market turmoil that followed her plan for growth. Theresa May yesterday also became the third former Prime Minister to criticise the government's apparent change at the heart on HS2, saying that more rail capacity was badly needed to serve the North and West, and halting it northwest of London rather than completing it into Euston would cause huge disruption to communities. Some Tories have also been buoyed by the fury of policy announcements and the leaked proposals from Number 10 that have included scaling back of HS2, an overhaul of A levels, new anti smoking measures, and a plan for motorists. However, others see it as widely incoherent, and the quiet majority, out of respect for the Prime Minister, haven't yet said anything as we lurch from one peculiar populist stance to another, said one MP. And that is what is killing them at the moment. They cannot decide what populist stance that they want to be on. and it's sending completely mixed messages, and it's just such an absolutely hilarious mess to watch. It generally is. One former cabinet minister said, "What's our narrative? These things individually might be quite popular and eye-catching, but the fundamental question that we all have to answer on the doorstep is why would you give us 5 more years? I don't think these policies in isolation answer that question." And that is the question that many people have said, yeah, why should we give you 5 more years? You've had 13 years in power and you've made things actively worse. Why should we give you 5 more years in power? And they cannot answer that question. Also, today, an attempt to try and show in his commitment to levelling up, the Prime Minister will announce a 1 billion plan to give dozens of towns across the country special endowment funds of £20 million over the next 10 years to invest in local projects. So, once again, only select towns are going to get this. This is pork barrel politics at its peak. Announcing the plan, Sunak said that towns are the place that most of us call home, and when most of us go to work. But politicians have always taken towns for granted and focused on the cities. Gee, you like your party and one city in particular, meaning, London. This is just going to be, to be honest, it's going to be a mess, because where are you getting that 20 million from? I wouldn't be surprised if this is not new money. It's money that already exists from other projects and just gets relabeled, but we'll see what happens to this project when it comes to see the details of it. But he continues to say, the result is, of course, half-empty high streets, run-down shopping centres, and antisocial behaviours that undermines many towns' prosperities and hold them back people's opportunity. Without the new approach, these problems will only get worse. Excellent, because over 13 years of conservative austerity, you have only made those problems worse, and none of that goes away while you continue to be in power. But it continues. So, according to the Institute of Fiscal Studies, this recent increase to council spending is far from fully reverses the spending cuts made to local government in the first half of the 2020s, when local government in real terms per capita spending fell by more than 20%. What a surprise. I said it wouldn't be enough. The opinion poll for The Observer of more than over 3,000 voters, which included over 900 2019 Tory voters, contains very mixed news for Sunak and his party. On one hand, it shows that the Labour lead has been cut to 10 points, down from 5 comparative with over a fortnight ago. But Labour is currently on 39 points, down from 2, while the Tories are on 29, just up 3, suggesting that Sunak's blitz of announcements, including rolling back the net zero commitments and floating the idea to abolish inheritance tax, may have had some positive effects. The opinion tends to give Labour smaller leads than the other pollsters, as it assumes that more people had previously voted Tory. But currently they said they don't know who could return to the Conservative fold at a general election. But on the downside, among those 2019 voters, just 66% said that they will back the Tories again. 12% said they will switch to Labour, 13% to Reform, 5% to the Lib Dems, and 3% to the Greens. Less than half of the 2019 Tory backers, 48%, think the Conservative-led government since 2010 have been successful, while 40% of them think they have been unsuccessful. these issues regarded as the most important, such as the NHS, and those on which they believe the party has most backed, has performed worst. So, overall, bad news going into a conference. Incredibly bad news going into a conference. You are going in to a conference where you have a poll which says your 2019 voters aren't going to back you. Your bizarre policy blitz is not selling well on doorsteps, because that is the ultimate question that Rishi Sunak has to sell at the next general election. And you can even see that Conservative MP got it right. When they go to the doorsteps, when Rishi Sunak goes to the country at their general election, he has to say why you have to give the Conservatives 5 more years in power when they have had 13 years of it, well, 14 years of it at that point. Why should they get 5 more? What difference are they generally going to make when they've had 13 years already in power? You cannot answer that question with this bizarre populist policy blitz of just constant random stuff being thrown about. And I'll tell you why. Labour learned that lesson very well in 2019 when we had Jeremy Corbyn's manifesto, which was just everything, everything. But what was the narrative of the Labour 2019 manifesto? Nothing. Corbyn will say, "Oh, it's change. This is a manifesto for change." Well, change what? You've got so much stuff shoved in there. It was like a magician just pulling out random tricks. It didn't make a cohesive show. It didn't tell a cohesive story, and they were punished for it big time at the polls. Meanwhile, of course, Sunak is following the same point. And you have two competing manifestos being launched. You've got 2 former leaders in Theresa May and Liz Truss doing their own events that will question your own, legitimacy as leader and pushing forward their own ideas. You've got the Red Wall MPs who are going to be desperately trying to justify themselves. You've got this new group called the New Conservatives. What a fun couple of days we've got lined up ahead. Honestly, we've got such a fun couple of days lined up ahead for us. I am rubbing my hands with glee. I can't wait for it. I really can't. But roll on this conference. Roll on, my friends, because oh boy, are we going to hear some truly crazy stuff in the next couple of days. So buckle up, because we've got some fun stuff probably coming down the pipe. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. And of course, as always, we'll see you all next time.